commissioned analysis found that the UK has seen the biggest proportion fall in fertility rates across G7 countries since 2010. The UK is in red on the right, with an 18.8% drop.
Other countries have also seen this fall, but it's not been as pronounced as it has been in the UK. So obviously that will then impact on the shape of our population in a way that's more intense. We think that austerity and the austerity drive across the country was a principal factor. Places with higher deprivation, so that's poorer parts of the country, saw faster falls in the fertility rate. And we think that that demonstrates the impact of government cuts to family policy, to social security spending.
One symptom of all this, school closures, like this one in County Durham.
This is an extreme example of what's happening. It's a remote area and pupil numbers were down to just 5. But we're starting to see more schools across the country closing, with multiple reasons for that. One of the big ones is lower fertility rates.
The economic risk, a future with more pensioners than working-age people. Some argue it will mean a greater reliance on immigration to support the workforce, but not everyone's worried about the statistics.
The decisions that women make are in significant part a reflection of very good developments over recent decades. Better job opportunities for women. There are as many women now going into higher education as men. And I think it's better to make it easier for people to work later in life and extend working lives rather than, in a sense, try and bribe women to have more children than they might want to at the moment.
Regardless, a lower fertility rate will change the shape of the population, as having more children becomes a choice many simply can't afford. Adele Robinson, Sky News.
So what is causing these drastic changes in birth rates in certain ethnic populations? There are many reasons being suggested for it, but no one is asking this one question. Could it be a sign of judgment? Judgment often manifests in various forms, including natural disasters, military defeat, and exile. But are there any examples of infertility being a sign of judgment that we can find in Scripture? We're going to dig a little deeper and see what can happen when judgment is on the land. Let's look at this from Genesis 1:28. It says, "Then Yah blessed them, and Yah said to them," speaking about Adam and Eve, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." So we see here that he's telling them that bearing children, being fruitful and multiplying is a blessing. Now we know that there are some examples of certain women who were restrained from bearing for various reasons in Scripture, but they were the exceptions. It was not the norm. Otherwise, how could this command be fulfilled? So when we're told that specific nations are experiencing extreme cases of infertility and low birth rates, it's not something that should be taken lightly. There are significant consequences when nations cannot replace themselves due to low birth rates.
Singapore is going extinct. That was Tesla CEO Elon Musk's big tweet on Thursday. The comment was a response to a post about Singapore's baby crisis. And it's not just Singapore. Musk thinks a lot of countries will go extinct. He's not named them. But earlier this week, South Korea made headlines for the same reasons, on being the first country to disappear from Earth. The headlines itself may sound alarming, but the reason is very simple. The dropping fertility rate across the globe. The ideal fertility rate required to sustain a population is 2.1. In some countries, it has dropped below 1, and that has sparked concerns. So is Singapore really facing extinction? Which other countries may go the same way? Our next report tells you.
In every corner of the world, the signs are becoming harder to ignore. Once bustling towns grow eerily quiet. Schools shut their gates for good. Entire villages vanish. Humanity, for centuries, has thrived on the foundation of growth and reproduction. But now, the numbers tell a chilling story. Birth rates are plummeting. Populations are aging. And the survival of nations hangs in the balance. A stark warning came from Elon Musk. He tweeted, "Singapore and other countries are going extinct." The reason? Falling fertility rates. Singapore's fertility rate has been declining for some time now. But in 2023, it fell to a historic low of 0.97. This refers to the number of children a woman is expected to have in her lifetime, and it has left the city-state alarmed. So Singapore did what all governments do. It tried to throw money at the problem. But even that did not help. Singapore's baby crisis is because of a couple of reasons. The cost of living crisis, the expenses of raising a baby, and the difficulties managing work and family commitment. Just offering parental leaves or cash incentives doesn't make them go away, and it's the same situation in many countries across the globe. Like South Korea, earlier this week, it made headlines on how it could be the first country to disappear by 2100. The reason again was a population crisis. South Korea already has the lowest birth rate in the world. In 2023, it fell by another 8% to 0.72. If the trend continues, in 50 years, nearly half the population will be older than 65. Japan, too, has a similar trajectory. It was once the world's 11th most populated country. But its population is expected to have before the end of the century. Japan now sells more adult diapers than baby diapers. Then, there is China. Until recently, it was the world's most populous nation, accounting for a sixth of the global population. But Beijing too is dealing with falling birth rates, and this isn't just a developed country problem. In 2023, Brazil showed the slowest population growth on record. So this is truly a global problem. In 1950, the average woman had 5 children. Today, that number is just over 2, and in many developed nations, it's far below that. For a population to hold steady, the number should be 2.1.
This is pretty serious. We see that a number of countries are not reproducing enough to replace themselves. But as reported, certain populations are aging and going extinct. Not all countries. The prudent should be asking, why is this happening to certain populations and not all? Is it because the nations being affected refuse to accept the possibility that they are experiencing the judgment of the Most High? And if it's the hand of the Most High, why are they being judged? And there are various sins that can cause a nation to fall under judgment. We can look at what happened because of our sin, or the rebellion at the Tower of Babel, the judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah, the Canaanites, Babylonians, and others. But is there an example of judgment that caused childlessness in a nation? Because when a nation falls below that replacement fertility level, it's just a matter of time before that nation is no more. I really encourage you to watch the recent video from the live this past week called What They Fear Most, and it will help you to see how serious the situation can be. The link will be in the description. So let's look at a judgment that prevented the women in the nation from having children. This is found in Genesis 20. We'll look at verses 17 through 18. It says, "So Abraham prayed to Yah, and Yah healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children. For the Most High had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife." Now, for those who may not be familiar with this story, the backstory is an incident that happened when Abraham and his wife Sarah traveled to Gerar. He told Sarah to say that she was his sister because he thought the men would kill him in order to take his wife because she was very beautiful. And indeed, she was taken. She was taken by Abimelech, the king of that country. He took Sarah and brought her into his household. Now let's read verses 3 to 7 to see what happened after that. "So the Most High appeared to him in a dream And he said to him, Indeed, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. So he asked the Most High this question, Will you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself, said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands, I have done this. And Yah said to him in a dream, Yes, I know that you did this thing in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Notice that he says sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now therefore, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours. Let's see what the king did. It says, So Abimelech rose early in the morning, called all his servants, and told all these things in their hearing. And the men were very much afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? How have I offended you that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done. Then Abimelech said to Abraham, What did you have in view that you have done this thing? Why would you do this, man? So Abraham said, Because I thought surely the fear of Yah is not in this place, and they will kill me on account of my wife. But indeed she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when Yah caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place wherever we go, say of me, He is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants, and gave them to Abraham. And he restored Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, See, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you. Then to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all who are with you and before everybody. Thus she was rebuked. Now that word rebuked is reproved in the KJV, which is to correct gently. But who was at fault here? This story highlights deception, divine intervention, and protection. Sarah was Abraham's wife, and the Most High protected her. Even though Abimelech did what he did in ignorance, Yah still held him accountable. His household was being afflicted, and he didn't even know why. But it was the result of having Abraham's wife in his household. It impacted him. How do we know that? Because it says here that Yah healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children. For the Most High had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So it was only after releasing Sarah and blessing Abraham with sheep, oxen, and male and female servants and money that this curse was lifted. I call that restitution. Nations around the world who are being affected by infertility should pay attention to this. Do you have something in your possession that belongs to the Most High? Let's bring it a little closer to home. Who is Israel? When you read Jeremiah 3:14, The Most High says, "For I am married to you." And we know that the Almighty changes not. In Isaiah 54:5-8, he says he is Israel's maker. He is her husband. He's our Redeemer and the Holy One of Israel. And to make things plain, he's telling us he owns everything. The whole earth is his. Now listen to what he says to the nation of Israel. "For the Most High has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a youthful wife when you were refused, says the Most High Yah. For a mere moment I have forsaken you, but with great mercies I will gather you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have mercy on you, says the Most High, your Redeemer." What is he redeeming her from? From the hands of her enemies. Let's look at this from Joel 3:1-3. "For behold, in those days and at that time, when I bring back the captives of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there." Why? "On account of my people, my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. They have also divided up my land. They have cast lots for my people, have given a boy as payment for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they may drink." All of the nations who had a part in parting Yah's land, taking his things from his temple, and taking his people into captivity, you should be very afraid, because this should be a clear sign of judgment. This isn't happening to every nation. The Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation is reporting that the world is approaching a low fertility future, although by 2100, more than, listen, 97% of countries and territories will have fertility rates below what is necessary to sustain population size over time. Comparatively high fertility rates in numerous low-income countries, predominantly in Western and Eastern Sub-Saharan Africa, will continue to drive population increases in these locations throughout the century. This demographically divided world will have enormous consequences for economies and societies, according to a study published in The Lancet. Why are they the exception? Now let's look at some information from this article from the European Conservative. It's entitled, "UK Fertility Rates Experience Sharpest Decline in G7." This says the United Kingdom is witnessing a significant drop in fertility rates, outpacing all other group of G7 nations. According to an analysis from the left-leaning Center for Progressive Policy, the UK has experienced an 18.8% decline in its fertility rate since 2010, worse than any other nation in the G7. An intergovernmental forum consisting of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US. This trend raises concerns about the country's future demographic and economic landscape, as a growing number of pensioners will eventually outnumber working-age individuals. Italy follows the UK with the second largest fertility rate decline, while the United States, Canada, France, and Japan have also seen drops, though to lesser extents. Overall, many developed countries are facing similar challenges. As fertility rates decline, so does the potential for sustainable population replacement, which could lead to severe economic and social repercussions. This has been used as a reason for not just allowing, but encouraging mass migration, as recently restated by Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez. It goes on to say that across the globe, numerous developed countries are grappling with falling birth rates. As we previously reported, Italy recorded fewer than 400,000 births in 2022, the lowest number since the country's unification in 1861. Italy's fertility dropped to 1.24, one of the lowest among OECD countries. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has pledged to address this demographic crisis with new policies aimed at boosting birth rates, but with limited success thus far. It says Germany, too, is seeing a record low birth rate, with 2022 marking the lowest rate in a decade at 1.46 children per woman. It says the country's population increase is today primarily attributed to immigration rather than a natural rise in births, with net migration reaching an all-time high of 1.5 million in 2022. So the leaders of these European nations are pretending to be against immigration, but they're letting these people in because they know that their numbers are declining. They're just not telling their citizens that. The same thing is happening here in the United States with this administration. They're not against immigrants. They're just against the ones with brown skin. If you're an Africana, come on in. They'll roll out the red carpet for you. So what are they doing? They're spreading out their marbles on the table to make it seem like they have more than they really do. But that trick can only work for so long. Let's go on. It says, across Northern Europe, similar trends are evident. Denmark, Norway, and Sweden all experienced significant drops in birth rates in 2022. France, historically one of Europe's more fertile countries, is not immune to these trends either. As we reported in May last year, birth rates in France hit an all-time low in the first quarter of 2023, with a 7% drop compared to pre-pandemic levels. Experts from France's INED attributed the decline to a long-term downward trend, though they noted that France's fertility rate remains higher than that of many other European nations at around 1.8 children per woman. We're going to read some information from this article from Vivid Maps. It's talking about Europe's declining cradles, mapping the 2025 fertility crisis. It says, what happens when a continent stops having enough children to maintain its population? Europe is finding out firsthand. According to UN estimates released last year, Europe already hit its peak population in 2021 and has begun its slow decline. The statistics reveal a clear narrative about Europe's demographic future, which could have significant impacts on economies, social systems, and cultural landscapes. Take a look at this map. This is European fertility rates by country. It says 2.1 births per woman is the threshold for maintaining population size without immigration. As you can see, the overwhelming majority of European nations are well below that threshold. This goes on to say the magic number in population studies is 2.1 children per woman, the fertility rate required for a population to exactly replace itself without immigration. It says when we examine Europe's fertility landscape in 2025, the picture becomes troublingly clear. Now, many of you may remember that years ago we were told that 2.5 children per family was ideal, as if you could have a half a child. But the phrase 2.5 children was used to describe the ideal for an average family, and it became the norm for a lot of people to only have 2 children in the so-called developing countries. Who came up with this? European nations, of course. The lie about overpopulation was a tactic to reduce our numbers, especially on the continent of Africa. But it backfired. These super intelligent nations didn't think this thing through and look at the long-term effects. This is now impacting China, of all nations. By trying to harm us, they put their own nations in jeopardy. Obviously, they don't believe that we have a Father in heaven who is just. Hopefully now they know. The evil you meant for us has come upon you. You tried to set a trap for us, but who fell into it? This didn't happen overnight. Northern and Western European countries were the first to experience fertility decline, with rates dropping below replacement levels starting in the 1960s. The effects were masked for decades by increased life expectancy and immigration, but after 40 years, the demographic impact has become unavoidable. So they can't hide this anymore. It says southern European countries like Italy, Spain, and Greece followed in the 1970s and 1980s. Eastern European nations experienced dramatic fertility declines after the fall of communism in the 1990s, with some of the steepest drops occurring in countries like Ukraine, Russia, and the Baltic states. What about the long-term outlook? Well, it says demographic projections suggest Europe's population decline will accelerate in coming decades with profound implications. By 2050, many Eastern European countries could lose 15 to 25% of their current population. The working age population will shrink dramatically relative to retirees. Some rural regions face potential depopulation. Migration will become increasingly critical for population stability. So the question is being asked, can anything turn the tide? It's saying some countries have implemented various policies to try to boost the birth rates, though results have been modest at best. It says so far no European country has returned to replacement level fertility through policy interventions alone. It's saying immigration remains the most effective short-term solution to population decline, though this brings its own social and political challenges. So these European nations are raging against immigrants, but it's a show. They're trying to balance out their numbers to make sure the white race maintains the majority. But guess what? That's not going to work in the long run, because it's time to reap what you have sown. This nation acknowledges that slavery is the nation's original sin, but that's as far as she'll go, because this is a Christian nation, and Christians have been forgiven. There's no need to make restitution. It's one nation under God, they say, and they don't believe they can ever be under his wrath. Think again.
Well, the fertility rate in the United States has been trending downward for decades, and now a new report shows the rate is the lowest in more than a century. According to the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, between 2022 and 2023, there was a 3% drop in the number of births. That brought the fertility rate just below the previous low from 2020, which was 56 births for every 1,000 women. Then there was another drop in births last year to less than 55 live births for every 1,000 women. Meanwhile, births continued to shift to older mothers, and older groups saw smaller decreases in birth rates.
Hopefully, they will see that they are not immune. Now let's look at another example to see what happened when a curse was placed on the Philistines because they took something that had been consecrated and separated unto the Most High. The backstory here is that there was sin in the land of Israel during the time of Eli the prophet, and the Philistines attacked and killed about 4,000 men. So the elders decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant out to the battlefield, thinking that it would serve as their protection and they would not be defeated. Now let's see what happened. We're going to read 1 Samuel 4:5 through 11. And when the ark of the covenant of the Most High came into the camp, all Israel shouted so loudly that the earth shook. Now when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What does the sound of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" Then they understood that the ark of the Most High had come into the camp. So the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us, for such a thing has never happened before. Woe to us! Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong and conduct yourselves like men, you Philistines, that you do not become servants of the Hebrews as they have been to you. Conduct yourselves like men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and every man fled to his tent. There was a very great slaughter, and there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. Also, the ark of Yah was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Now, rightly so, the Philistines should have been afraid. But in this situation, Israel was defeated before her enemies. Why? There was sin in the camp, and the Most High allowed them to be defeated. That's a consistent pattern for our people. The other nations can only defeat us when we disobey the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. But even in that, we're going to see that the Philistines paid a great price for daring to take the Ark of the Covenant. Let's read this. This is 1 Samuel 5:1 through 7. Then the Philistines took the Ark of Yah and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. When the Philistines took the Ark of Yah, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when the people of Ashdod arose early in the morning, there was Dagon, fallen on its face to the earth before the ark of the Most High. So they took Dagon and set it in its place again. And when they arose early the next morning, there was Dagon, fallen on its face to the ground before the ark of the Most High. Listen, the head of Dagon and both the palms of its hands were broken off on the threshold. Only Dagon's torso was left of it. Therefore, neither the priests of Dagon nor any who had come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. But the hand of the Most High was heavy on the people of Ashdod, and he ravaged them and struck them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territory. And when the men of Ashdod saw how it was, they said, "The ark of the Most High of Israel must not remain with us, for his hand is harsh toward us and Dagon our God." And Abba Yah wasn't finished with them. So the lords of the Philistines came together to see what they should do about the ark, and they decided to take it to Gath. When it got to Gath, the hand of Yah was against the city with a very great destruction, and he struck the men of the city, both small and great, with tumors. So they sent the ark to Ekron. And the Ekronites were like, they're bringing the ark here to kill us and our people. So they gathered the lords of the Philistines together again and told them, look, send this ark back to its own place so that it does not kill us and our people. So listen to what it says. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of Yah was very heavy there, and the men who did not die were stricken with the tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. But these people had enough sense to know when they were being judged. Not so much today. So how did this turn out for them? Well, let's look at 1 Samuel 6, 1-3. Now the ark of the Most High was in the country of the Philistines 7 months, and the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, "What shall we do with the ark of the Most High? Tell us, how should we send it to its place?" So they said, "If you send away the ark of the Most High of Israel, do not send it empty, but by all means return it to him with a trespass offering. Then you will be healed, and it will be known to you why his hand is not removed from you." Please don't miss the key point here. When Abimelech was told why judgment was on his house, even though he didn't know that Sarah was Abraham's wife, he knew that he had to get her out of his house, and he needed to make the thing right. He made restitution. These Philistines found out the hard way that they should have never put their hands on the Ark of the Covenant, because it was a holy thing separated unto the Most High. They knew they had to get it out of their land and return it back to the people of Israel. And they also had enough sense to know that they needed to make it right by sending a gift. Now you tell me, do you think the nations who took Yah's people, divided up his land, and took things out of his temple will get away with it? Yes, he allowed it because of our sin. And we had to do our time in the lands of our captivity. The nations exploited us and used our labor to build their nations. And now they're lifted up in pride. They thought it was because they were so great. Oh, wait. No, they thought it had to do with skin color. But are we seeing the hand of Yah moving throughout the earth as a sign for the nations that they have something that belonged to him and it's time to release it? But you will not send it back empty. You will pay a heavy price. You will pay the price for the time that it was in your possession. Joel 3, 9-12 says, "Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war." This is what these pronouncements are. They're telling you why you are being judged. Your day of reckoning is near. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble and come, all you nations, and gather together all around. Cause your mighty ones to go down there, O Most High. Let the nations be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Who will have ears to hear? If this message has been a blessing to you, please hit the like and share it. You're also welcome to subscribe if you have not already done so. We normally upload messages on Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Yah willing. Join me next time.